Every day. Like you'll be $800. My wife reminded me to give you the bill.
There's a difference between the other airports.
Right.
But he never gets tired.
I did.
Airport.
I did.
One of them had to have been attention to.
Yeah.
And.
And that's that little thing.
All right, we'll let them sub shot, just like them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep getting.
Afternoon, welcome to October 16th meeting of the Transportation Planning Organization, RVTPO. This meeting is called to order. At this time, I would like to ask Executive Secretary to call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Tuck.
Here.
Mr. Nicely.
Here.
Ms. White. Mr. Fidzikowski.
Here.
Chair North.
Here.
Mr. Radford.
Here.
Mr. Volleson. Vice Mayor McGuire. Mayor Turk.
Here.
Mr. Holliday.
Here.
Just in time. This time. Mr. Wiles.
Here.
Mr. Stovall.
Here.
Mr. Price. Mr. Stewart.
Here.
Mr. Huber.
Here.
And I know, Mr. Ford is here, and Mr. King, and Mr. Volleson made it just in time to in the attendance that we had before.
Thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda, approval of consent agenda. Item A, approval of the agenda. Item B, action on the September 25th RVTPO minutes, pages 3 through 32. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the consent agenda stands approved. We have some remarks today. First off, I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but in Cardinal News today, there was an op-ed about the airport. And it was written by the Regional Chamber of Commerce, Executive Director, Eric Satfeld and Jeremy Holt. Peter and I helped Karen write that. That's okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a lot of help.
There are 2 capitals, consulting firm in Richmond that helped craft that message. And basically it's fly ROA because we got too many people that don't fly ROA. And we need that business in order to justify future expansion at the airport in terms of the runway especially. So I flew ROA last week on time, going and coming. Everything worked out well. So you're making your plans. If you have to pay a little more, remember, it's really a donation to help get that airport one day expanded. And we need to do it before Mike Stewart retires. Or he can't retire. Thank you. The Commonwealth Transportation Board, known as the CTB, at its October 15th meeting, identified several pots of additional transportation funds, primarily through unexpended funds in the Priority Transportation Fund and Garvey bond funding that has not been assigned to projects. As a result, PDOT is proposing 13 more projects to be funded through these streams, including the $269 million address project with the S-curves along I-81 in Roanoke County, and $90 million in 2 projects on Route 220 in Henry County. You might recall Delegate Austin has been a longtime supporter of the S-curves. A public hearing for the I-81 S-curves projects is being held on October 28th at the Salem Civic Center. Public hearings for the 220 project are also being held on October 30th at Drury Mason Middle School in Ridgeway. Comments can be made in person at either event. If RVTPO members would like to submit comments by email, staff will share the Salem residency's email and instructions upon request. And at this time, Vice Chair Nate Turk has some messages for us.
Okay, we have a couple of pieces of paper at where you're sitting. The first one, we have a meeting coming up. It's a public hearing about Interstate 81 widening from exit 128 to exit 137. To find out, this project is a 9-mile project in Roanoke County and in Montgomery County, and it will be on Thursday, the 6th, from 5 to 7 at Glenver Elementary School, not the high school, the elementary school. If there's bad weather, November 13th is when it will be held at the same time, the same location. You can provide comments if you would like. You can go online and provide comments, and there's some information on the back of the flyer. Have a moment, take a moment and read that. Hopefully we'll have several people there. Good to be there. Fortunately, I'm out of town. But the next one is Route 419 Electric Road from Starkey Road to Springwood Park Drive. It's a community meeting and survey. It will be November the 10th. That's a Monday, 5 to 7 at the Roanoke County Administration Center. And this is a 3rd floor training room there. It's an open house style community meeting where you can come and go as you please. And they've got an inclement weather date of November 12th. Now you've got a survey also on this to open up and comment on possible corridor and intersection improvements. And you've got a window of time to do that. Hopefully, you'll put some comments in there that will be good for people to take a look at. So you've got a QR code if you like doing that and you're adept at it. So those are the 2 announcements, 2 important meetings coming up that deal with transportation and our roads.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 5, presentation on the MPO reauthorization. Katie Economo is the legislative director of the Association Metropolitan Planning Organizations, known as AMPA. In this role, she leads federal policy and advocacy efforts to support the priorities of the metropolitan planning organizations, which are MPOs, across the U.S. Her work involves engagement with Congress, federal agencies, and industry partners to further policies that strengthen transportation networks and advance regional infrastructure priorities. Prior to joining AMPO, Katie worked with Michigan local governments to enhance their resilience, policies, and practices. She holds a bachelor's degree in public policy and in international relations from the University of Delaware, as well as a master's degree in urban and regional planning from the University of Michigan. At this time, I welcome Katie. Katie, you with us?
Hello, thank you so much for that introduction and welcome, and also for the invite to be here today. I'm super excited to talk about federal surface transportation reauthorization and how it affects policy and funding at the regional and local level. Also happy to answer any questions at the end if time allows. And would you like me to share my screen or?
Sure.
Excellent. Let me get this queued up. Okay. Bear with me. I am having a slow time on my computer. And is this sharing on your end?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's try this again. Here we go. Is this working?
Yes.
Excellent. Sorry about that. I am having a bunch of different issues with Microsoft Office after that AWS shutdown. I'm not sure if that impacted y'all as well. But now that we got that queued up, we can really bounce into it. So a little bit about AMPO. AMPO is the national association that represents the 410 MPOs across the country. We serve as the national voice for MPOs on transportation planning and policy. And our mission is to ensure that MPOs have the tools, flexibility, and authority to deliver results for their regions. And I thought we could start with a quick overview of how federal surface transportation funding works. So when Congress passes a surface transportation bill, it sets the rules, the programs, and the funding levels for several years at a time. Funds then flow from Congress to the U.S. Department of Transportation, to state DOTs, to MPOs and their local governments, where they're used to plan and deliver projects on the ground. And understanding that flow is a big key to understanding where MPOs fit into that general picture. So at the foundation of the federal program is the Highway Trust Fund, or HTF. The HTF is primarily funded through the federal gas tax and other user fees, but because that gas tax hasn't increased since 1993, revenues haven't really kept pace with today's infrastructure needs. And to keep the system funded, Congress now supplements that HTF, or Highway Trust Fund, with transfers over from the general fund. And without congressional action, the Highway Trust Fund is projected to face a shortfall by 2028. If you want to dig more into the weeds on this too, we have a QR code in the top right of this slide and can learn more about that there. But each reauthorization cycle, Congress revisits this issue and determines how to best keep the fund solvent while maintaining investments in roads, bridges, and transit. Anyway, so once Congress passes a reauthorization bill, like the current Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, the funds are distributed to state departments of transportation using formulas set in law. From there, states allocate a portion to MPOs through programs like the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. Once those funds reach the MPO, they're programmed into the MPO's TIP, which reflects the near-term projects drawn from each region's long-range plan. And once programmed and obligated, local governments move forward on the delivery side for those projects. For larger MPOs, so those serving over 200,000 in a population, they're called TMAs, or Transportation Management Areas. A share of funds for certain programs like STBG, or the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, is directly suballocated to their region. TMA MPOs have project selection and directly program those funds for the projects that are selected with their local boards. Smaller MPOs typically work more closely with their state DOTs to identify and program projects, but the state DOTs typically retain more discretion and control over how those funds are programmed for the smaller MPOs. Also, I wanted to flag it's important to note that most federal programs require a local match, which is often set at 20%. That can be a significant hurdle for smaller and rural communities, which is why AMPO and our partners are advocating for greater flexibility in matching requirements during reauthorization, which I'll definitely talk more about in a bit. And MPOs rely on two big buckets of formula funding, which come from the Highway Trust Fund. Planning funds, or PL 5303, it's the backbone of MPO operations. It supports regional planning, public engagement, data analysis, all the daily operations of MPOs, and things that also guide investment decisions. On the other side of that, there's capital or implementation funds. MPOs also program these and help deliver capital projects through several key formulas. So there's STBG, as I mentioned, that's flexible funding for roads, bridges, multimodal improvements. STBG funds are directly suballocated to the TMA MPOs, while states typically determine allocation for those smaller MPOs. Within STBG, there's TAP, or Transportation Alternatives Program, set aside. It's focused on bike, pedestrian, and safety projects. Then there's CMAQ, which funds congestion mitigation and air quality projects. CMAQ is generally suballocated to TMA MPOs located in air quality and non-attainment areas. And then there's the newer carbon reduction program. It supports emission reduction initiatives like energy efficient lighting and alternative fuel infrastructure. TMA MPOs are suballocated a portion, while states have discretion for smaller areas with this pot as well. But together, these programs give regions a foundation to plan, prioritize, and implement projects that meet local needs. In addition to all those formula programs, MPOs and local governments can compete for discretionary grants like RAISE or Build Now, formerly RAISE, or the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. These grants offer a super valuable opportunity to advance safety, innovation, and regional priorities, but they also come with competitive processes and added administrative requirements. So balancing access to new funding with manageable workloads is definitely a reoccurring theme as we look forward for reauthorization. Okay, so I keep saying reauthorization. What does it actually mean? Every few years, Congress has to renew the laws that govern how federal surface transportation programs operate. The process sets the funding levels, program structures, rules for eligibility and oversight, and the current law, the IIJA. It expires on September 30th, 2026, which means that discussion about the next bill are already underway. And to put today's discussion a little bit more into context, I think it's helpful to take a quick look back. And I know I've said a lot of acronyms, but get ready for more, which I'm sure you've picked up on is something that's super prevalent in federal transportation, all the acronyms for everything. Starting at the 60s and 70s, this is where the creation of NPOs and the 3C or continuing cooperative and comprehensive process began for planning. Looking into the 90s with the ICE-T bill, that was a major turning point for NPOs. It expanded authority and formalized public participation. Then there was MAP 21 in 2012, and that introduced performance-based planning for NPOs. Then on to the FAST Act that added additional factors for NPOs to consider in their planning, like resiliency, safety, and emissions reductions. And from the 90s up until the FAST Act, funding increased steadily for all highway programs, but on the NPO side, increases to things like planning funds were comparatively low. And now with the IIJA, that's the largest bill that we've seen, and it's a bit different because it couples policy updates with historic levels of funding. It created the carbon reduction program, other new programs like Protect. It delivered major bridge and transit investments and majorly increased dedicated funding for local areas through both formula and discretionary programs. Planning funding for NPOs increased here, but it still remains a relatively small fraction of the overall program. I think currently planning funds sit at 0.83% of the entire federal aid highway program and have remained around that level for the past 30 years. So this hasn't really kept pace with the need or responsibility of NPOs. But the big takeaway from this timeline is each reauthorization has steadily expanded the role of regional and local decision making and the funding that goes along with it. And staying on IIJA for a second, as I mentioned, the IIJA didn't just increase funding, it changed the entire balance. So discretionary programs jumped from about 5.5 billion under the FAST Act to nearly 28 billion today. That's like a five-fold increase, so it's huge. That growth opened up the door for local and regional governments, giving local communities more direct access for funds for discretionary programs like Safe Streets and Roads for All. But the big thing to keep in mind here is access and funding levels. The local and regional players gained an unprecedented amount of access to the funds. So maintaining dedicated funding for local roads is going to be a major theme in this next reauthorization, especially as we're hearing increasing chatter on consolidating or eliminating certain discretionary programs in favor of passing those funds down through formula largely to state DOTs. And now with the 101 pieces out of the way, we can get to more of the meat of it, how NPOs and local governments can influence this process to ensure that federal policies and funding coming out of the next bill are supportive to regional and local needs. For NPOs, reauthorization directly affects things like your planning funds, your capital funds, flexibility, and authority in project selection. And in the lead up to reauthorization, we've seen Congress prioritize a number of themes, particularly consolidation or removal of discretionary programs to make a shift more towards formula funding. We've also heard a consistent theme of more flexibility and control to states. We've heard permitting reform, also a general focus on performance measures that are set federally and tied to federal funding to increase accountability there, streamlining processes generally across all areas, and also innovation and technology. So we're currently in the heating point of reauthorization. Committees in both the House and the Senate. So the Transportation Infrastructure Committee in the House, the Environment and Public Works Committee, EPW Committee in the Senate, Senate Commerce and Senate Banking, they're all gathering input and drafting initial text for the next bill. Local and regional control has consistently emerged as a top theme, which reflects super strong engagement from our members, local governments, our coalition partners, which is definitely promising. And committee staff are currently finalizing the base text of the reauthorization bill. And we've heard we could see it introduced as early as this fall up until December. But the government shutdown that's currently occurring may complicate this timeline a little bit. Both Chairman Graves and Ranking Member Larson of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee have expressed a lot of optimism that a bipartisan bill will move forward before the IIJ expires in 2026. But it's also important to keep in mind historically, reauthorization bills rarely pass on time, but the committees are really emphasizing readiness and early consensus to avoid delays here. And more fun stuff. So on the AMPO legislative priorities front, over the past 3 years, AMPO has been working with our membership and committees to develop legislative priorities. We've administered a countless amount of membership surveys, conducted interviews, and crafted issue papers surrounding our top asks. Some of those include modernizing planning funds to reflect today's expanded responsibilities. This includes things like increasing PL funding, allowing MPOs the opportunity to become direct recipients of these funds if they wish to, eliminating the local match requirement, and expanding eligible uses to kind of like take that planning to project delivery pipeline a step further with streamlining, offering things like local technical assistance. Another piece is strengthening regional decision making, so local and regional priorities are reflected in project programming for regions of all sizes. Another piece is reducing barriers, such as local match requirements generally, so more flexible options to lower the match requirement on capital funds, especially for small and rural areas, and also ensuring MPOs have a stronger role in safety, bridge, and innovation programs. So crafting greater suballocation there to make sure that these funds actually reach the local level. These priorities reflect what MPOs have told us you need: more flexibility, more predictability, and more tools to serve your region effectively. And we're going to keep pushing those until those needs are all met. And with that too, all these priorities are detailed in our policy roadmap 3. It also outlines a bunch of actionable recommendations and engagement strategies for MPOs and local governments. There's a QR code over there on the bottom right. Definitely encourage everyone to review it. It's designed to be a practical resource to help regions engage with congressional offices and partners throughout the reauthorization process. And LOT. Another key effort is AMPO's partnership with the Local Officials for Transportation Coalition. It brings together AMPO, National League of Cities, National Association of Counties, National Association of Development Orgs, which represents Rural Transportation Planning Orgs and RDOs, the National Association of Regional Councils, and U.S. Conference of Mayors. That is such a mouthful, and there's a bunch of acronyms for them as well, but together we represent cities, counties, MPOs, and regional planning organizations across all geographies that collectively plan for, own, and maintain the majority of America's transportation infrastructure. And we work closely with that coalition to elevate our shared priorities. Advance. Okay, the LOT coalition, this is kind of like a photo of our expanse. This map was created by NATO and it shows our regional coverage. Together, our members cover the overwhelming majority of the United States. Our reach is far, and we have the opportunity to work together to speak with one voice and make sure priorities that are important to all of our members are reflected in that next bill. And LOT Coalition's proposal for reauthorization is similar to AMPO's, but takes it a step further and involves all the voices. We're looking to address the needs that we've heard across all these different organizations. And first is that ownership and responsibility of local governments is not proportionate to the amount of funding that's dedicated to address local needs. We know that local governments own 75% of all public road miles, half of all bridges in the United States, the majority of public transit systems, and 44% of the federal aid highway system, but they only receive 14% of formula funds. And the responsibility to maintain all this doesn't really match the funding that's meant to guarantee and address it. Second is the scale of local and regional needs. It's not proportionate to the level of funding that's needed to solve our nation's biggest infrastructure problems. An example of that, locally owned bridges are 2 times more likely to be in poor condition than state-owned bridges. And on the safety side, 40,901 lives were lost in traffic crashes alone in 2023. 41% of those were in rural areas, 58% in urban areas, and 1% in areas not classified as rural or urban, so like highways. And to address America's safety crisis and deliver on the priorities that were set out by the US Department of Transportation and Congress to improve outcomes there, local and regional governments need those adequate resources and authority to respond. Third biggest piece is the mismatch between ownership and responsibility and decision-making authority. As local and regional governments plan for, own, and maintain the majority of the nation's infrastructure, they also have the strongest and closest understanding of local needs and solutions. So we believe they should be given the right decision-making authority to make sure that funding reaches those areas with the highest level of need. What we've heard time and time again from our members is that while federal law requires coordination with MPOs, and local and regional priorities are meant to guide project selection and programming of federal dollars, these coordination requirements are applied with varying consistency across the country. This can result in local and regional priorities often being unmet when it comes to final funding decisions, as states control the obligation of those funds. But the big picture here is that imbalance means the entities that are most responsible for maintaining infrastructure often have limited control over how those dollars are spent. So we'd like to address this in reauthorization. Bucketed by themes, our priorities are to ensure funding levels meaningfully support regions and local governments, to rebalance decision-making authority and funding to the local and regional level and ensure transparency. Also to strengthen planning and project delivery through more flexible and direct support to MPOs and RTPOs, and to streamline the processes and right-size permitting to get projects off the ground quicker. LOT's platform also includes elevating small and rural community needs through better support for rural transportation planning organizations, or RTPOs. We're advocating for a clear and streamlined federal designation process for RTPOs and a dedicated funding source to support their planning work. So similar to what MPOs receive through PL funds. That ensures that both urban and rural regions have a voice in shaping federal investment and adequate resources to do so. So we can talk about what you as MPOs and also local officials can do to make a difference in this process. First biggest piece I would say is tell your local story. Congress responds best to real world examples. When you meet with your delegation, explain how federal policies affect your community, whether it's a bridge waiting for repair, a corridor that needs safety upgrades, or planning funds that are stretched too thin. Connecting the dots between federal investment and local impact is super helpful for folks to hear on the Hill. Another one is meeting regularly with your congressional delegation, both in Washington and at home. Setting regular meetings, whether that's during a district work period or Hill visits, help keep your priorities on Congress's radar. We have AMPO has an MPO engagement toolkit, which includes templates, sample talking points, contact information for your representatives. That makes this process easy. Happy to share any of that material. And also something else to pay attention to as you're trying to spread the message, coordinating as a region can be really helpful. When mayors, county officials, and the MPOs present a unified regional message, it resonates. A single coordinated letter or meeting that emphasizes shared regional and national priorities shows broad alignment and also can help strengthen your influence. Another piece is just sharing updates and success stories, sending over periodic briefings or project updates to your delegation's transportation staff can be really helpful. Short and focused updates help keep local and national priorities visible between reauthorization cycles. And as mentioned, AMPO can help you coordinate on any of this. Two final things to flag: participating in LOT Coalition and AMPO activities is definitely important. We host webinars and events and also have a ton of different resources to help connect the local piece to the national picture. And collective engagement, of course, keeps local and regional voices at the table. And also consider visiting us in DC. We frequently coordinate group fly-ins and joint meetings with coalition partners. Even one or two representatives from your region attending can have a super big impact in highlighting how federal decisions play out on the community level. And to close, AMPO and the Lot Coalition are here to be your partners in REOTH. Our MPO Advocacy Toolkit, which I believe is that QR code that's right up there on the screen. It includes ready-to-use materials to help you communicate effectively with Congress and state partners. If you're preparing for a meeting or looking to connect with other regional voices, please don't hesitate to reach out. Feel free to call or email me directly. And thanks so much for the opportunity to be here again today. And apologies for the tech difficulties, but happy to answer any questions on all things federal policy, anything AMPO, anything REOTH.
Thank you, Katie. This time, are there any questions for Katie? Very informative information. No questions? Jeremy, I think we need to pick this up later on. And
Yeah.
she has some good tips on law music. What have you.
The MPO has very rarely been involved beyond the state level in this discussion of reauthorization, so I think there can be some good opportunities. To Katie's point around local and regional coordination, there's a lot in what she presented that really does have an impact on this organization's ability to serve you all. And I'd asked her particularly to talk about the RTPO, the rural planning opportunities there, so that the commission can better serve our rural communities as well. So there's some really interesting opportunities in this next reauthorization. And
Yeah, that's right. That's important coming up too. We might want to touch base with Congressman Fines,
Yes, sir.
Congressman Griffiths first, just to gauge their support for that bill, because that's important. If we don't get that renewed or funds increased, it affects everybody locally in one way or the other.
She spoke about a letter. Is that something that this group could go ahead and put together and
Absolutely.
send from all of us? Made some good points.
Very good. Not a very talkative group here today. That doesn't mean we didn't appreciate your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Ken.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And as mentioned, feel free to shoot me an email with any questions. And I can also send all the resources flagged in this presentation over in an email, if that's helpful.
That would be very helpful, so we can get that out to those that weren't here today, but also in the meeting package for next session in November.
And we do have Katie's presentation on hand, so we can send that directly to you all if you're interested after the meeting.
We might just take the train up for a day or two in Washington, see what's going on up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Or fly.
Thank you.
I wanted to say.
Nah, we're not gonna fly. We need to save that money for ROA.
Yeah, for a real.
Maybe RMA will fly by ride with us on the train. But thank you very much, Katie. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda, an update from Radar. Chair recognizes Nathan Sanford, Executive Director of Radar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate a few moments of your time.
Adjust that mic there so we can all hear you back. There you go.
Is that better?
That's better.
Does this clicker work? Or am I gonna have to use you, Jessica?
Clicker should work. If it's not working, let me know.
That looks like it's working. Yes. Hey, there's a Radar bus. I'm Nathan Sanford. I'm the Executive Director of Radar, a position I've held for about 8 years now. And Jeremy asked me to just give a quick overview of what we're doing at Radar and maybe a little bit about what's new. Just a couple of facts about Radar. We're sort of your local nonprofit transit, kind of whatever company. So we're there to fill in all the gaps where Valley Metro, they have their great coverage during the day and on Saturday. We do a lot of stuff that fills in all the gaps. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary. We were created in 1974 as a not-for-profit community corporation to provide rural and specialized transportation services. Our actual name is Unified Human Services Transportation Systems Incorporated, which is a mouthful, but it's very descriptive. It was a group of human service agencies in the mid-70s who realized their clients didn't have any way to get access to their services. So they created a nonprofit to do that. We provide an affordable, safe, and efficient transportation options for local governments and social service agencies. We have a fleet of 80 vehicles providing fixed route, deviated fixed route, demand response services for municipalities and numerous service agencies. Our headquarters over on Shenandoah. Just a quick mention of our vision and mission: to be a premier community transportation provider committed to safety, courtesy, quality, responsiveness, efficiency, and innovation. and our mission to provide that service, specialized and coordinated transportation that is safe, dependable, and cost effective, enhancing the quality of life in the area. So for the most part, if you think about radar, you think about those white buses with the red and blue stripes, and maybe you think, I don't really know what they're doing. The answer is really, we're doing lots of different things. And we do service, not just in Roanoke, Salem, Benton, but out in the outlying areas, what we consider our rural services, Allegheny County, Covington, Clifton Forge, Franklin. We have a service in Martinsville and Henry County, and another service in Lexington, Buena Vista, and Lockridge, which I'll go into more detail later. Star is sort of our bread and butter. As you know, Valley Metro provides the fixed route service. Part of the requirements for that fixed route service is to have complimentary paratransit. So for probably 30+ years, Valley Metro has contracted with Radar to provide that service. So folks with a qualifying disability, folks who might not be able to get around, they can qualify for the Star service. They can call us up day ahead of time, schedule a trip, and anywhere in that area, we'll be able to get them access to where they need to go. It's a way for them to be able to access the Valley Metro service that they can't do right now. Some of our rural services, this is the Mountain Express up in Allegheny County. We have a 2-bus, 1-route system. These poor folks have to wait 90 minutes between buses, but that's as good as we can do up there. But they do have access to a public transportation service. Now, one note about Mountain Express and a few other systems that we operate, we call them deviated fixed routes. Basically, they're operating the 2 components of transit at the same time, paratransit and fixed route. So for these folks, if they qualify for that service, the bus will deviate off of the route, pick them up, and then go back on the route and take them to where they need to go. So it's a way to be a little bit more cost effective, providing those 2 services in one, as opposed to what we do here in Roanoke, where Valley Metro does the fixed route and we do the complimentary paratransit. Same deal with Parts are 3-bus system, 3-route system down in Martinsville and Henry County. Very heavily used. We're averaging about 170 trips a day right now, but they love us down there because, you know, we can get folks around town and into the county. Or Express, more of the same. This is the service that's in Rockridge, Lexington, and Buena Vista. They're the fortunate ones that get some service on Saturday. We also run Ferrum Express, which is really about connecting Ferrum University, Ferrum College to Rocky Mount. And we operate this when school's in session on Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, and Saturdays. And then some new stuff, MetroFlex. We're just about wrapping up year 2 of MetroFlex. This is really exciting, where we're able to provide additional service after the end of the fixed route day for Valley Metro. So until about 12:15 at night, Monday through Saturday, and then 9 to 6. Already really a lot of success. We knew before the system started that there was a lot of demand in those times. So we've been averaging just under 1,600 trips a month doing that. And I should have updated the numbers. This is actually for 23-24. It's not even, the 2003 is way off. But this is what we do generally in a year, and it's going up year over year since the pandemic. We provide over 83,000 hours of service, over 190,000 one-way trips, and our fleet of vehicles will put over 1.3 million miles. So we are out there and we are active. That's a very quick overview of Radar. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I did just want to thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do.
Any questions for Nathan? Great micro-transit story. Appreciate it.
I should just mention, it's not Radar stuff, but I do want to make everyone aware there are a few other players in the space besides us and Valley Metro. Ride Source runs the McAfee Knob shuttle, and they have a public transit in Bedford called the Otterbus. And then our friends at Virginia Regional Transit just recently started operating Fortran in Roanoke County too. So there's a couple other players in the space, and you'll see them too if you pay attention when you're on the road. There's lots of sort of mom and pop, non-emergency medical transport vans that you'll see. They're mostly providing transportation for folks who need to get to medical appointments who also have access to Medicaid.
Is there a charge for Radar? Is that based on?
There is.
Your.
So they're all different, but for Star, it's double what the fare is for the regular bus. So I believe it's $1.75 to get on the Valley Metro bus, so it's $3.50 to your Star, and that's just because it is a more individualized service. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Nathan. Moving on to item 7 on the agenda, FCBG out of cycle. Request, Chair recognizes Thomas D. Julian, VDOT, and Megan Pronice from Roanoke County. This is found on page 33 of their meeting package.
All right, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. Megan and I will do tax leaves. My name is Thomas Julian, project development engineer in the Salem district. We're here to talk to you about Route 419 project phase 2. We'll come to you with an out of cycle funding request. We're going to sort of walk through some of the details of that. I'm gonna let Megan start off giving you a little bit of context of how this project fits into some of the other things that are going on in the area.
So, this red line is the study area boundary for the Route 419 town center plan, which was adopted by the board of supervisors in 2019. We've been doing a lot of work to implement that plan since about 2017, 2018, when we applied for round 1 funding for 419 streetscape improvements between Route 220 and Hodgson Road. So this was completed about 2022. And the next piece that we were able to get funded with assistance from the TPO was the Diverging Diamond Interchange, which is currently under construction right now. That project was coupled with the 220 signal project. There's 2 signals here and then 2 on the other side of the Blue Ridge Parkway, and then 3 more in Franklin County, Henry County, that are all a part of that project and under construction. Branch out that contract will be done in 2028. The next piece we worked on Route 419 was phase 2 between Ogden Road and Starkey Road. And this is the piece we'll talk about today. We also have another county project that's complete. This is Shallow Water Lane extension of Ridgetop Road to improve access to the ridges up here, which is zoned for multifamily. And the last piece is a new study that we have. Mary Kirk talked about the flyer and the community meetings for 419 phase 3. And that is a project pipeline study that OIP and VDOT are running from Starkey Road to Springwood Park Drive. So we'll have, again, that survey opening in the next couple of weeks. So that's all of the work that Roanoke County has been doing to try to implement the 419 town center plan, which Route 419 in this area is our highest traffic volume in the county with all the commercial and residential there. Thanks.
Okay, and here's a sort of a blow up of the project itself. As Megan said, this is really sort of an extension of similar improvements that were done in phase 1 from Ogden back out to 220. So we're using the existing shoulders today. We're using that space plus widening some to basically create room to move through right lanes to the corridor, as well as bike lanes and sidewalks both directions. We're also converting the Starkey Road intersection to a through-cut configuration with pedestrian crosswalks and pedestrian signals, as well as including installing R-cut at Ridgetop Road intersection. So very much a similar typical section, if you will, extending the improvements westward or southward on 419 away from 220. So a little bit of history. So back in 2019, Roanoke County submitted this project to this board for STB leverage funding for a smart scale application, which was submitted by the smart scale application was submitted in 2012. That project was selected for funding by the CTB in June of 2021. And you can see there the total project estimate at that time was $18.5 million. It was funded 76.5% by VDOT through the district grant program, Smart Scale, and was funded 22.5% from the TPO with their leverage funding of $4.4 million. Last year, we did update the estimate and we got further along in the design. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, as we started to see some of the inflation impacts. So we updated the estimate last year. It went up to about $24.5 million. That deficit of about $6 million was covered by VDOT DGP funds through the CTB. I'm not sure we can't really see up here, but basically we're looking at the new estimate as of very recently We've updated this $28.1 million, we've got about a $3.6 million deficit. And so I wanted to, take a step back and, since the application stage, this project has gone up about $9.6 million, which is obviously very significant, right? So I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about, some of the main causes for that increase. The biggest thing, really has been inflation. If you look at, if we can move the bottom there.
Not wanting to.
Anyway, okay, there you go. So this graphic here is the National Highway Construction Cost Index from about 2003 to over here on the right-hand side, the first quarter of 2025. So about 23 years, 22 years. And you can see the line sort of steadily going up. Anyway, when we did the 419 estimate, we were here in the summer of 2020. You can sort of see it's somewhat of a perfect storm. For 20 years, inflation was, up and up and down, but it's fairly steady. Here in the summer of 2020, is when things sort of got a little bit accurate. So that we're really chasing that. The difference between when we did the estimate of 2020, and it actually dropped here in the first quarter of 2025, it's a 61% inflation rate. For those 5 years. The smart scale application, we do include inflation, we submit projects for smart scale. We escalate that out. The inflation rate used in the smart scale applications across the state is 3% a year at that time, which equated to about total 23%. So we're about 38% off just in our prediction of the inflation. We just, anybody saw that coming at that time. So depending on how you run the math, that accounts for half of maybe $5 to $6 million, $5.5 million of the 9.6. We do have some other things that obviously cause some of the increase that I'll talk about next, but inflation was certainly a big factor. I'm not sure. Yeah, so that's where the point is. All right, so the next big thing that really created some of the cost increase was the storm drainage. We, at the end of the day, as we got into the design, stormwater calculations and using real survey data, we ended up needing more inlets and more pipe to actually adequately collect and convey the stormwater. So we had some quantity increases in pipe and inlets and so forth. And that coupled with where we're doing that work, we're installing these storm drainage pipes in a very urban corridor. The graphic here, all these color lines are utilities. So we're working around a lot of underground utilities, very congested. We've got a lot of, obviously, the commercial entrances that we want to keep open during construction. We're doing a lot of that work at night. As Megan mentioned, very high traffic volumes. So we expect this work, this stormwater work, we have large 54-inch stormwater pipe running through this area that we have to install. We expect that work to be very slow and not very productive for a contractor. So we know those costs are gonna be higher than what we would see on a typical project. So we try to account for that in our estimates. And again, that's sort of one of the other big players and drivers in the estimate increase. Right. So the request, as I mentioned, the current estimate is $28.1 million. Our current deficit is 3.6. What we're asking from the TPO is additional RSTB, STBG funding in the amount of $845,214, which was calculated based on the original pro rata share of the original funding, that 23.5%. The remaining deficit of about $2.8 million will be requested from the CTV, likely at the, November meeting, November 10th, I believe it is. Why now? We know this is an out of cycle request. This project is scheduled to go to right of way in December, the right of way acquisition phase. And we need to have the project fully funded in order to, get authorization for right of way to move ahead. So that's the, sort of the rationale for coming to me at this point in time. And, with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the presenters? Yes, I got a question. Yeah, Mr. Ray.
I just want to verify, I'm in the construction field, residential. Most of our homes are over $1 million. Ever since 2020, I've seen gravel, concrete, all that material that's associated with highway. It has just tripled, quadrupled on our jobs. Even equipment, excavators, compactors, all the new equipment that you need, because it constantly breaks down. You know, we have to pay more for that new equipment. So unfortunately, that's a real number that we're seeing in the residential side also, along with on the federal side. So I understand more than people that aren't in construction. So
Tommy, I have a question. Does anyone else got one first? Yeah, Peter.
Is there any, I don't know how this is funded, but is there any local share that has to be done?
The question I have is on the 2.8, will we have any high assurance or probability that's gonna be approved by the CTV?
Yeah, I think we have we've discussed it with Dr. Smoot. I feel, our CTV member, I think he's gonna be supportive of it and, being district grant funding, and I will say, one of the CTV policies is district grants, so it'll be our local CTV member that'll sort of make that decision, as long as it doesn't fall out of if it would have still been selected, and it would have still been selected back in the day, even with this larger cost, it still would have been in a selected project, so.
So we're pretty assured that if we get the CTV money and the STDG funds, that's gonna be it. You're not gonna be coming back for a third time for more money?
Can't promise you that.
Who said there wasn't politicians in VDOT? Okay, any questions? So I think what the ask is referring this to the TTC for review and recommendations. And then they report back in November. Is that correct?
The TTC meets November, the TPO will not meet again until December 11th. So that would be, the TTC's recommendation would come to this body in December.
Okay. Any motion on referring this to the TTC for review and recommendation?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Second, Mayor Turk. Okay. We need a roll call, or we just do a voice vote?
I think this is just a referral, so there's more just a voice vote.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you very much, and the motion carries. Thank you, Tommy and Megan. Moving on to item number 8, first reading of round 7 SDBG carbon reduction program FY 26-2 applications found on page 34 of your package. Chair recognizes Allison Sinet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everybody. So, we're gonna do things a little differently. I've never done this before, so you all are seeing the first view of the new applications for this round of SDBG CRP. So this is a table of all of the applications that we had. So we had 9, and we had 4 from Roanoke County and 5 from the city of Roanoke. And this is just at high level sort of what they are, and I'm gonna go through each slide and have a very brief summary of what the projects are. So, but I will just point out that there were several that are requesting leverage funding. So, from the city of Roanoke, 4 of their 5 applications are leverage funding requests. But I will say, I'll look at this big number at the bottom, which you probably can't see in the back. But the total request amount for just new projects is over 23 million. So that is, all right, we're gonna go into the first project. So, this is Roanoke County's first project, and, they're requesting this project to have a study to assess potential improvements at this at-grade crossing. They're looking at a crossing improvement of a bridge. The reason or the concern that created this project is that when rail and freight is backed up, it limits emergency vehicles being able to reach the other side of the railroad. And for all traffic. So the study will look at what their potential improvements can be, and that is the very high level summary of this project. And so it is a study. Their second project is this Burlington Avenue mid-block crossing. And so this would be a construction of a mid-block crosswalk, and it includes ADA ramps, new sidewalks and sections of sidewalks and crossing flashing beacons. And okay. So this project for my county is to create a 10-foot wide asphalt greenway segment for roughly 3 miles, connecting from the Tinker Creek Greenway to Benton. Let's see. Oh, no, sorry. There is not written. So this is, let's see, yeah, this is Roanoke County's third project. The fourth project is the West Roanoke River Greenway Phase 2. So this project, they are looking to receive funding for this next section of Roanoke River Greenway. This project would be a 10-foot asphalt path for almost a mile from West Riverside Drive to the Roanoke River. And on this side is what it looks like, and this is the rendering of what I would like for it to look like. And then moving on to the city Roanoke's projects. So this project is the Campbell Avenue pedestrian safety project. And it is seeking leverage funding to establish new, sorry. That's not, I'm so sorry. Seeking leverage funding to install ADA ramps, curb extensions, and accessible pedestrian signals on 5th and 6th streets. So this is just for 5th Street, but the one for 6th Street looks very similar. But that is this project. They're requesting leverage funding for smart scale. And this project, the US 460 Melrose Avenue, Orange Avenue multimodal safety and mobility improvements. This project is seeking leverage funding to execute the recommendations by the WAPI study that is currently underway. This project going through the intersection improve access and safety. We will have a more in-depth scope once that project kind of narrows down, but that's what this looks like. It's at Lafayette, Melrose. So the next project is seeking leverage funding. It is the Williamson Road intersection traffic and safety operations improvements. So this is looking to improve the intersection alignment, traffic signalization, and installing ADA compliant crosswalks and signals. Okay. This project is the RCIT Granby Street Secondary Access. This project is seeking leverage funding to establish a new street to provide connection between Granby Street, Nicholas Avenue, and to the Blue Hills Drive. There will be adjacent improvements to the Orange Avenue to support the new vehicle activity, potential increased vehicle activity in the connection. This is the last project. This project is seeking funding. It is the Roanoke River Greenway Underhill. So they have already completed the preliminary engineering for this project. And this project is seeking funding to help complete this section of the Roanoke River Greenway. This section is to construct a 10-foot wide path from Bennington Trailhead intersection between 13th Street Brownlee and 16th Street Brownlee. So, are there any questions?
Any questions? Yeah, I'd like to have copies of, your slides 3 and 4 on the east and west Greenway for the, you would make copies for me and Mr. Radford.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we will have these presentations more in depth with the EDC as well before they start reviewing the applications for going forward to develop recommendations for the next financial plan.
Okay, Allison, you're up next on item 9.
Yes.
Did anyone have any questions for Allison on item 8? If you just minute. Anyone? If not, we'll go on to item 9, RVARC. Franklin County Micro Transit Feasibility Study. Page 35 of your package. Allison, bring us up to date.
Thank you. So it's been a little bit since we've talked about this project. I think it might have been January of this year. But we just wanted to give an update. So what we've been doing recently, we applied for a technical assistance grant through Department of Rail and Public Transportation. And we were successful. So we received the grant in July and we just finished our procurement process and have selected Kimley Horn to do the microtransit feasibility study. So we're really excited about that. We have our kickoff meeting next week. So we are looking to develop a steering committee for that effort. We are looking for more participation. If you are interested in being part of that process, please let me know. We have a steering committee right now about 20. So we want to make sure everybody's incorporated in this process. So in the staff report, I do have a very, very summarized scope of services. If you're interested in seeing those, please let me know and I can send you a copy. And essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna develop a microtransit feasibility study. And we're gonna see what we can do with improving the transportation opportunities between here and Franklin County and through Franklin County. So that's high level what we're gonna do. And I'm really excited about the project, so just wanted to give y'all that update.
Any questions on the micro transit feasibility study for Franklin County?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna do this study internally, is that what I'm?
No, so we have procured Kimley Horn to do the study. So yeah. So they will be the ones actually developing the study, but I'll be highly involved in all meetings, all public engagement. We have Franklin County staff that are going to participate.
So we have the funds set aside for this study.
Yes, sir. So I applied for the technical assistance grant, which was a 50-50 match. So in December of last year, we put up some of our transit planning funding to go into this that the NPO receives. So that was our part. And then Franklin County also created a match. So we have made up the 50% and then VRPT had made up the rest of the match. So it's a combination.
Okay. And how much is that?
The total cost is $150,000.
Okay.
Yes. So the NPO contributed 25,000. Franklin County contributed 35,000.
Okay.
And then the match was from here. You should see.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any more questions? Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 10, other business. Is there any other business to come before the TPO today? Okay. Item number 11, comment period by RVTPO policy board members and the Senate. Anyone have any comments? Going once, going twice, gone. Have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. See you in December.
I don't eat it.
Every day.
No, I'm not.
We'll see some of the
Yeah, I get it.